Hi, I'm Martin, I'm Chair of Liberate, and with me today is Brad Cohen, who's our advice columnist. You may have seen him on AskBrad on our website, www.liberate.gg. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, and Brad's here to tell us more about himself and also about his new column, what will be featured in the column over the next few weeks and months, hopefully. And so we're very excited to have Brad over with us. Brad's been over in Guernsey for a few days. So tell us a bit about yourself, Brad.
Well, Brad Cohen, and I grew up in the Channel Islands in Guernsey. I write for So So Gay magazine, which is based in the UK, and I am now the advice columnist and writer for Liberate.
So you come to Guernsey this weekend, Brad. What do you think's changed since you left the island 3 years ago?
I think a lot's changed. The LGBT community seem a lot more confident and forthcoming with issues that are bothering them or on their mind. In terms of the feeling of equality is progressed so much over the last couple of years thanks to organisations such as Liberate. And there's a lot more, there's a friendlier atmosphere in the Channel Islands now, I think.
Yeah. So you're a Guernsey boy. So tell us about your experience growing up in Guernsey.
My experience was very strange. I was the only out gay teenager in my school, which was very interesting. Back then there weren't any organisations such as Liberate around at the time, unfortunately. So it was very much down to myself to go online and look at Gay Times and read publications like that to really get to grips with the culture that I was a part of.
Tell us how you got involved with Liberate.
It was about a year ago. I contacted Liberate after seeing the work that they were doing and said I'd love to help. I think this is something that should have been around when I was younger, and the changes that Liberate have made over the last 2 years are just absolutely fantastic, and I wanted to help in any way that I could. And so we thought for a while, and as a writer for So So Gay magazine, we thought the best thing to do would be to come up with something that was very new in the Channel Islands, and so the advice column was born.
And what sort of issues have you written about in the couple of weeks that your advice column's been live on our website?
The first piece was on coming out and considering that and speaking to family and friends. I think that was a great first piece because it's something people in the Channel Islands are still very anxious to do, and they perhaps don't feel that they can straight away. And I think a lot of people can relate to that piece. The second piece was on potentially domestic violence situation, which was another good opportunity, I think, to discuss what people in the Channel Islands can do, because I think that domestic violence in heterosexual relationships are very much talked about compared to same-sex relationships. I think that people are a little bit too apprehensive to come forward, perhaps because they don't think they'll be taken seriously by the authorities or by family members or friends. So that was another good piece to discuss, to show them that there are resources in the Channel Islands to speak to.
And how often will you publish an article?
There'll be Ask Brad write-in every week, along with a Spilling Tea article. Spilling Tea is another section on the Ask Brad column, discussing all things LGBT in the culture, as well as some book reviews and film reviews and other things like that.
Brad, you write for So So Gay magazine, which is a Stonewall nominated publication for Best Publication. Tell us what it's like writing for a major publication like So So Gay.
It's absolutely fantastic. It's so great to be in the centre of the community and the culture that I'm a part of in the UK. And it's so much fun to write about new legislations in different parts of the world, issues that are very niche to the LGBT community, and I get to review and meet some fantastic people within the culture, and reviewing things like new films that are coming out that are targeted towards the LGBT community. It's a lot of fun.
Do you think it's important, Brad, to have an advice column like AskBrad in the Channel Islands?
Definitely, I think it's a huge step forward. Now that people are more comfortable with talking about their issues, I'd very much like to give them a voice and use AskBrad as an opportunity to have a voice. I think we've still got a lot of healing to do in terms of bringing things up to speed compared to the rest of the UK, and the advice column is a big part of that, I think.
Why do you feel qualified to write for the column? Because you're, quite a young man still, so...
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Guernsey, and I think I can relate to a lot of people within the LGBT community, having problems in school. Like I said, being the only out teenager from my school was very, very difficult at times, because back then there just wasn't a lot of awareness, and it was a very negative thing still. And then unfortunately had issues with coming out to family members, and their journey with dealing with my homosexuality was very difficult for them as well, I think. And there was an absence in terms of charities and organisations like Liberate, so there really wasn't anyone to speak to, unfortunately.
What sort of things will you be discussing, Brad, and who can write in?
Absolutely anyone can write in, however big or small their problem is. If it's to do with school or to do with their partners or family members, they can write in. Using the opportunity to relate to other people, can guarantee someone else will be having a similar problem, so it's good to voice those problems.
So you and I know how difficult it is to grow up in a small island and be gay or bisexual, lesbian or trans. Confidentiality is a big thing, and obviously this is an online column. Mm-hmm. How are we going to assure confidentiality to our readers?
It's 100% confidential when they write in. Their names will not be published, and if a write-in is particularly descriptive of an individual or their families, it will be edited to be quite ambiguous, so they won't be able to be identified through their writing.
What do you think about Liberate now that you've met, some of the gang? I mean, obviously we have our Skype conversations when we're talking about launching new things like AskBrad, but now you've actually met the team and networked a bit this weekend. What do you think about Liberate and the work that we're doing?
I think seeing the positive changes that Liberate have brought about firsthand has been so wonderful, and meeting everyone from Liberate has been fantastic. You can tell everyone is so devoted to the cause, and it's really something that is in the heart. It's very close to their heart, and they're making such positive changes. I think that they're very friendly and approachable, and they're very integrated within the LGBT community of the Channel Islands, and they're making wonderful, massive changes in the Channel Islands.
So you went to the first Liberate This event over Easter, which our Vice Chair Ellie organised, and I think she did a terrific job. What were your impressions of, Liberate This?
Well, there were just under 100 people, I think, that went. It was fantastic to see such a good turnout, and you can tell that people really want to have a regular thing, and they're so much more comfortable, and there was bisexual people there, gay people there, lesbian people there, trans people there, and they felt confident enough to turn up and have a good time, and they felt completely relaxed, and it was such a wonderful atmosphere.
How important do you think it is that the LGBTQ community across the Channel Islands, and also their family and friends, straight allies, support events like Liberate This, and also what we're trying to achieve in terms of reform?
I think it's essential. I think everyone stepping forward and supporting in some kind of way is really important, and it's the thing that's going to make the massive change, because we all want the same thing. We all want to be equal. But if we're silent about it, it's very difficult to achieve that. And I think, especially with family members and friends coming forward and supporting the cause as well, it will make such a huge difference.
Do you think still needs to be changed in the Channel Islands as far as LGBT rights are concerned?
I think the Union Civil, when it comes around, needs to pass, and that will instill a lot of confidence within the LGBT community. I think that's absolutely an essential stage of us feeling comfortable within the Channel Islands. I'd like to see a richer culture develop here, and I think with events such as Liberate This and the events in Guernsey as well, it's very achievable.
Yeah. Obviously, there's been a big push by Liberate over the past year for things like equal marriage in Guernsey. We've met with Senator Gorst, who's their Chief Minister, and also Jonathan Lattock in Guernsey, who's our Chief Minister regularly over Union Civil. Why is that piece of legislation so important to the LGBT community?
I think it's absolutely essential to the LGBT community because it allows us to feel like we are equal, and I think at the moment with it not being equal, a lot of people are still very scared and they don't feel like they're home, and that's really upsetting. I think that it's a huge step forward and it needs to come around soon, because otherwise people aren't going to feel like they are home and they'll leave.
Thank you very much for coming over this weekend. It's been brilliant to meet you. We're really looking forward to seeing what's featured in the next few weeks and months ahead in terms of the AskBrad column. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much for having me.